I will. Thank you for your patience and thank you for joining us today. We're going to start today with a quick swearing in ceremony, and then we will get the meeting started. Again, thank you for joining us. Which
You want me to be on this side? Okay. All righty. Okay, here we go. Carlos. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Carlos Hernandez, do hereby swear that I will support, honor, and respect the Constitution of the United States.
I, Carlos Hernandez, do hereby solemnly swear to support, honor, and respect the Constitution of the United States,
The revised Constitution and bylaws of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe, the bylaws, customs, and traditions of the Bois Forte Band,
the revised Constitution of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe, bylaws, customs, and traditions of the Bois Forte Band.
I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of my office
I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of my office
to the best of my judgment and ability. So help me God.
to the best of my judgment and ability. So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Chairman Carlos Hernandez.
Rich. The meeting is called to order at 9:07 a.m. July 2nd, 2025. I'd like to have Vern start our invocation. Miigwech Vern. So I'll reach out to our friends and relatives. In this time, we all know the community is hurting, and we need to take care of each other and make sure you tell your friends and family that you love them. Thank you, Miigwech Vern, for the invocation. I'd like to request Nikki to do roll call
Carlos Hernandez,
here.
Kara Gishik. Here. Shane Drift,
Oma, here.
Harry Drift,
Minshama Papaya.
Robert
All members present, we're going to move to approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I need to add a couple of items in where I know the meeting minutes ain't approved or ready yet, but I need to adjust a couple of items at that point in time.
Mr. Chairman, I also have an addition to the agenda. It will be under Lance Hill, letter C, resolution number 14-2026, new recreational lease for Carol Burr.
So it would be those two additions. And what you had mentioned, Shane? You had mentioned you'd like to add something? Okay. I ask for a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the Lance Hill new addition and
Move.
Second.
motion approved. Our motion moved by Shane, seconded by Perry. All approved. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Silent? Motion carried. All right. Now we're gonna move on to the approval of the meeting minutes.
Since the meeting minutes ain't ready yet, a couple issues that I'd like to address. My first item is at the last tribal council meeting, Perry Drift, District 1 representative, submitted complaints under Article 10 of the MCT Constitution. The complaints are regarding dereliction of duty of malfeasance on our Secretary Treasurer, Tara Gijek. Now, let the record show that I did meet with Executive Director Luke Warren Schultz regarding the complaints. I also sent an email to the MCT TEC officers and CC'd the Boys for Tribal Council requesting that these complaints be added to the MCT TEC meeting in Grand Portage on July 14, 2025. Under the MCT Constitution, only an MCT TEC member can file a complaint on another MCT TEC member. So with that being said, I'm turning the complaints over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Let the meeting minutes show at 9:14, I received the complaints or packet from Shane for review.
Now, as for my second item, at the last tribal council meeting, the tribal council passed the budget. I do believe the budget was for about $5.7 million, if I recall. Now, this funding, this $5.7 million was supposed to be for any cuts coming down from the Trump administration or the state cuts. This funding was not used for those cuts. This funding was used for a mistake, in my opinion. Now, a few things to keep in mind, people. We are only 6 months into the Trump administration, and we don't know the cuts that are coming down yet. And that was a huge concern. Even though the state of Minnesota balanced their budget, the federal government budget cuts could throw the Minnesota state's budget off balance. Now, if the state of Minnesota has to make more cuts next year, my concern is that the state tribal financial aid funding could be cut. Keep in mind that the state tribal financial aid is not a requirement. Basically, they're giving it to us as aid from one government to another. So with that being said, the tribe needs to continue to plan accordingly for the cuts that are going to be coming down. And our budget is getting tighter and tighter. Thank you.
Copy that. So you wanted to add these to the meeting? You wanted to add these to the meeting?
If it could be reflected in the meeting minutes, that'd be great.
Oh, okay, that's what's, okay.
Thank
You
you.
want it reflected in the meeting minutes. All right, thank you, Shane. Just clarifying that.
I move to table the meeting minutes of June 10th, 2025.
To table the meeting minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Tara, seconded by Robert. All in favors, say aye. Any opposed? Silent, motion carried. And next, we're going to move on to the consent. Oh, okay. Perfect.
Under the consent agenda, letter A, resolution number 101-2025, exclusion Forbidden-Jeffery Allen Bingham, vote was 3-0. Letter B, potable water trailer usage and rental policy, vote was 3-0. Letter C, approval CMS 588 form for EFT authorization for Medicare Part B billing, vote was 3-0. Letter D, authorizing video footage release for Tribal Ethics Committee hearing, vote was 3-0. Letter E, approval for Amy Mason, Energy Director, to participate in the Tribal Council on Energy and Industrial Transformation Project. The vote was 3-0. Letter F, permission to post statement from band to the Timberjay regarding traffic enforcement around the intersection of Highway 169 and County Road 77. Vote was 3-0. Letter G, contract with DSGW-Master Agreement Amendment 1 for Big Woods Facility. 3-0. Letter H, State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement WIC Program, Farmers Market Nutrition Program coupons. Vote was 3-0. Letter I, authorization for chair to sign CFA certification. Vote was 3-0. Letter J, resolution number 103-2025, approving band's application for Safe Streets for All implementation grant. Vote was 3-0. And finally, letter K, sole source to Tribal First in the amount of $166,333 for renewal of property insurance. The vote was 3-0.
Does the council have any questions on anything that was brought up?
Yes, now regarding the CFA, as I stated up before in previous meetings, that the CFA funding is used to pay off the loan that we used to purchase the 28,000 plus acres. Now, there was a cut to the CFA funding. I do believe it was 10%. So now we need to find that in our budget where that's going to come from and to cover the shortfall. And like I said before, with the federal government still, that the cuts still haven't been made known or approved, that if it throws the state budget off balance, there could be more cuts coming to the CFA funding. And how much of a cut comes down from them, if that does happen, do we have the funds to cover that shortfall? And we need to keep an eye on that. Thank you.
That sounds good to know. If you didn't hear yet, or I'd like to reiterate, 10% cut is coming across the board, across all programs. So we need to be prepared for that. And there might be more coming. So let's prepare for that 10% and get ready for if it comes, if it gets higher. Any other questions for the consent agenda? Council, call for a motion to approve and consent the agenda as read.
Move.
Moved by Shane.
Second.
Second by Junior or Robert. All right, we're going to move on to our first agenda topic.
Mr. Chair, you need to vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, you need
All
to
right,
vote on
so it
that.
was moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Silent? Motion carried. So now we'll move on to our first agenda item. It's going to be Amy Mason, Carol Burr, and Deanna. Hi, good morning.
Bonjour, good morning. Mr. Chairman,
I was just gonna say, sorry, we don't have enough seating over there.
Yeah.
so bonjour, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, members of the council. Today we're here to introduce the Northland Climate Resilience Collaborative, which is also known as the NOAA project. This was a grant that DNR Director Chris Holm had applied for with this collaborative, and we received a sub-award. So Deanna Gilhood is here, and she's going to give you a background on this project. And then Seth is going to be providing kind of an update of what has happened. And then I'll come back on and just let you know how we're going to be utilizing the sub-award for Boys 4. And you should have.
Bonjour, thank you, Council, and congratulations, Chairman, and nice to be here. Thank you, everyone. Before we go in, I just want to share sympathies with your community. I know it's been a hard time, so thinking of you all in this moment with the recent deaths in the community, and really grateful to be here on the Boys Fort Homelands today. This is my second trip here. It's always been a really warm welcome and really grateful to be here with you all. So I'll introduce myself and invite my colleagues to share their names as well, and then we will talk more about this exciting collaboration between Boys Fort and the regional collaborative. So my name is Deanna Gilhood. I am a climate resilience planner for the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission. This is one of 9 commissions that cover the state of Minnesota, focus on helping local governments. And yeah, we're helping lead this climate resilience collaborative that Boys Fort is a part of.
And good morning. My name is Seth Spencer. I'm an extension educator for the University of Minnesota's Climate Adaptation Partnership and one of the co-facilitators of this collaborative.
I'll invite my colleagues, Josh and Maddie, to stand and share as well.
Hello, good morning. Josh Berkstead, Principal Planner at the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Maddie Ryan. I'm a NOAA fellow and I'm hosted by the Minnesota Climate Adaptation Partnership.
Oh, nice to meet you. So far away.
Wonderful. So this top paper here is, this white paper is a one-page summary of this grant that we are on together. This is through the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. This is a climate resilience and coastal resilience grant given to St. Louis County, $1.8 million. It runs from October of 2024 to September of 2028. And the scope of this project are the counties along the North Shore. So that's Carlton, St. Louis, Lake, Cook, and then the Bois Forte Tribal Nation, Grand Portage Tribal Nation, and Fond du Lac Tribal Nation, as well as many other partners listed in our project partners list that I'll read. But the purpose of this project is to strengthen resilience against climate change and coastal hazards in the region. The project aims to strengthen regional resilience by fostering collaboration among these local communities and tribal nations, by integrating Indigenous knowledge into climate resilience planning and focusing on building community capacity, by equipping communities with the knowledge and tools necessary for climate adaptation. So a key component of this work is to develop a comprehensive regional resilience plan, which will prioritize climate adaptation strategies and outline pathways for implementation. Additionally, this project will offer ongoing technical support resources, workshops, trainings to further empower communities. And we can see the project outcomes here. So the first thing is to establish regional resilience collaboratives. So what that means is getting all these partners together to meet regularly to talk about what works in the region, what are strategies we've been doing. We know a lot of good work has been happening and people are doing planning with a lens looking for future generations. So coming together and share our successes on what's working. So that's a main outcome is relationship building and getting all these partners together regularly to brainstorm and strategize. And in integrating Indigenous knowledge in an authentic way is another outcome, bringing that into this planning process. We're working with the tribal nations, building community capacity through workshops, educational trainings, different listening sessions, thing that will be happening over the course of this 4-year project. Creating the resilience plan is a major outcome, and then ongoing technical support and offering resources. So I shared the scope of the project. The specific partners are the counties, so St. Louis, Lake, Cook, Carlton, as well as their soil and water conservation districts of each county. And then the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission, who I work with, and then the tribal nations and the 1854 Treaty Authority, and then the University of Minnesota Extension has a climate adaptation partnership program. So that's Seth's work and Maddie's work. We have the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, so the Minnesota DNR Coastal Program working with us, Department of Transportation, Minnesota Sea Grant, the State Agency of Minnesota Pollution Control. So all of these folks are working together on this in this collaborative. And we started just this fall, so we're still sort of getting our feet under us. We've met just a handful of times. We're meeting again up in Grand Portage because this is a huge geographic area. So we're trying to rotate the places where we meet. So next week we'll be meeting up in Grand Portage. But Bois Forte is a sub-awardee of this project, getting $200,000 to spend on planning work regarded to resilience. So that's why we partnered with Carol and Amy and their departments to brainstorm how resilience work can continue to happen here at Bois Forte.
Thank you, Deanna. And so we've heard that we're about 6 months into our project, and really this first year is really about building kind of a shared language and continuing to build trust amongst these 17 partner organizations that have worked together before, but just getting to know each other and really building the knowledge and understanding through a learning plan of what climate change impacts are already happening within our region, what resources we need to really plan and prepare for these impacts in a very challenging funding world. And so over the next 6 months, we'll be continuing to build upon those trainings and those opportunities and connecting and meeting with all of our partner organizations and that collaborative leadership team and really making sure that we're kind of moving forward and supporting each other over the next about 3.5 years. So thank you, and I'll pass it back to you.
So for boys sports, this funding is going to allow us to do some planning and some feasibility work. And that is important for us to be able to better write our grants and request funding to assist in our projects. Because if we have a better understanding of what it is we're trying to do, where we're at right now versus where we are trying to go, then we have a better ability to write out those grant applications and then be able to show what our true outcomes were. And so it is very important to be able to have funding to allow us to do planning and feasibility work. One of the things that we have been looking at is we've done audits for the C store, we've done audits for the Y store, so we've already done our energy audits. I was hoping that I could use some of this funding to actually work on a project for the C store, but I cannot use it for construction, labor, or materials. So I will be working with the C store to find other opportunities to secure some funding for that. We are currently working with the Y store. Since we did their energy audit, we are currently looking to work with the I store on maybe some funding opportunities through IRRR, and then maybe some other grant opportunities, get a backup generator to change out all of their lighting within their facility, which will help with some of their energy costs. So we already are identifying projects. So the planning part is very important. And we will also use that information then to seek the funding necessary to work on projects. So Carol.
So this is really important because we're going to be able to provide the climate, address the climate conditions, especially on boy sport. When we first got asked and attended meetings, I was like, how come we're in it? We're not on the North Shore. So they explained that, you know, we're part of the community. So we lucked out on getting that partnership with them. Amy is going to take them and give them a tour around the lake to show them the wild rice, which is our highest priority. And then she's taking them around the village, and then she's going to take them to Vermilion and show them that area as well. So it's a good opportunity for us. It's providing us with funding that we didn't have to have a match for. So we just want to let you guys know what we're doing. You know, we've been attending meetings and just wanted to give you an update.
That's good. It's nice to hear that grant is benefiting the band and.
And there are a couple other things. We do have a fellow. So one of the things is trying to build capacity, which Deanna did speak about, because in order to bring people on, you need funding to do that. This project is going to allow us to have 3 years worth of capacity for 2 years. Yeah, so 2 years of a grants fellow that will be working on projects specifically with boy sport. That she will also be working with Grand Portage and Fond du Lac. So she's going to be very busy, but this is also providing us a little bit of capacity. Unfortunately, she could not be here today. She will be here on Monday and start working with boy sport on projects. So that is another important aspect of this opportunity.
Nice.
I just want to say that we're really grateful to be partnering with Boy Sport. I feel like local governments have a lot of catching up to do in thinking long-range planning, the future generations ahead, and it's something you all have a lens on and are doing really well. And so we're just really grateful to learn from each other and to be in this collaboration together to not only have folks influence, you know, policy and things happening here, but also regionally, because now we're all working together on these counties and crossing these jurisdictional borders to make decisions together. And with the unified voice, we hope this collaborative can be a way to gain more funding in the area and to influence policy of the Northeast Minnesota. So thank you so much.
Awesome. We're glad that you including us and we're able to build our relationship and move forward together. Is any questions from council?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for that presentation. Where did you drive up from?
We came from Duluth this morning.
You have to be pretty resilient to drive that far, right?
It was a beautiful drive. I love when you enter the reservation, all the cedar that welcomes you on the way, and it's really beautiful.
My question though is that, looking at the paper that in front of me here, you talk about strengthening the regional resilience by fostering collaboration among local and tribal nations. Now, is that just for like buildings or is that for like natural resources? Because
That's going to be not only for buildings, but for natural resources. And I think the good thing about this grant is we did not specifically call out, say, climate, which got hit with a lot of funding cuts. So this is more of a coastal resilience, but because we didn't specifically call out climate, we still have funding. But we are very concerned about changes within the climate and how it's impacting the region. So we will be looking at a wide range of projects for resiliency. I think the way the grant was originally written was specifically tied to energy and efficiency, but that doesn't mean that we can't incorporate other aspects of resiliency into this, or at least utilize what we're learning within this collaborative to support projects outside of this one.
that's where I'm going with this is that when you go down to the lake shore and you look out at the lake, you don't have no rice. There's no rice. And that's a huge concern. Last year was, we had an okay crop. You could see the rice coming up in June. Now you go down there, I was just down there last night. And you look out by Spirit Island and on the left-hand side, there's usually like a patch of rice there. Nothing. You go down by Albert Sean's landing down here, there used to be a big patch of rice going all the way down. Nothing there. And thinking back to what some of the elders have shared with me is that with this river that flows out in that lake, is that they were told long ago by one of our elders to leave that river alone. They didn't. And they put in a bridge out there. And now, a few years back, that bridge, when we had that drought, and they could see that at the bottom of that bridge was starting to erode bad. So we had to hurry up and try to find funding to put in a fish ladder. And we got that in there. And now I'm kind of puzzled by why we don't have no rice. And that's a huge concern. And, I know that's probably a concern for a lot of our elders. And what's happening to our rice. Another thing that an elder shared with me was this area, this whole village, that lake. It was all woods at one time. Now you look at it, it's all logged out. And one of the elders that I was talking to a while back said that changed the dynamic of the lake. That played a part in it. So with that being said, what can we do to, if we can, bring our rice back, or is it too late? I think that's something that we need to find out.
That sounds good,
Thank you.
Shane. I like that. We're gonna have to talk more about a wild rice. And I like those points. That's strong. Do we have anything else for the presenters today? No, I really appreciate you coming out and letting us know about the work that you do. Thank you. Which. Right, next up on the agenda, we have Lance Hill.
Morning, Chairman.
Good morning, Lance.
All right, so we've got a few items here, but sure. All right, so the first item, this is a pretty lengthy project. In fact, it was well on its way to approval when I first took the position 2 years ago. Administrative hangups here and there. Jacobson legal counsel, Barbara Cole, is, I believe, also on the call. She did a lot of the heavy lifting. So I'll give the quick cliff notes, but I believe that it'd be essential for her to give a little history of this project to get basically everyone here up to speed, including myself. But yeah, I mean, the end play is we're seeking council approval via resolution for the business lease agreement between Verizon Wireless and Boys Fort on the Net Lake Tower located near the Four Corners area. So, so that's the summary, but Barbara, are you available? Barbara Cole?
If she
How
just
long have
popped
you-
on, Lance, it may be that she doesn't have, I don't know if she has the ability to unmute. Maybe that's the issue.
You should know.
She should now. Okay. Barbara, are you there?
I had a question for you, Lance, from when you started this project to now getting the resolution, how long did that take?
I think it was in play. I think it was in play possibly half a year upwards. And that's just me speculating, because I was handed a packet. I think the packet's about 50 pages. It was ready to go then, but there was a couple issues in the draft that the BIA had. So once we identified those, we addressed it, but Barbara can explain a little further. She
Yeah.
did
I
but
just wanted to know
Yeah.
the timeline, like how
Oh,
long it
yeah.
takes to get
we read,
something all the way up to this point, you know?
and now we hit a point where we submitted it to them. We didn't submit it officially. So can you take a peek? Does this look good? Can we vote on it? So that's where we're sitting here now.
Nice.
But I'll let Barbara take over if she wishes.
Yeah, she says she can't unmute and I don't see anything on my end to prevent her from doing it.
Okay, Jeff,
I can-
if
Yeah, I can fill in quick, Lance, if you want me to give a quick summary.
yeah, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. So one of the reasons why these leases and right of ways take a little longer is they're sort of, a right of way or a business lease has a whole different sort of series of components that the BIA requires that are incorporated into it. And, each agency, the BIA does things slightly differently, even though the regulations are all the same. And so there was, work to do to coordinate with the Minnesota agency to make sure that this included all the requirements that were needed under the regulations, but then also, fitting some of the requirements and specifics that the Minnesota agency requires. So I think the good thing is that this can be kind of a model for moving forward for any similar types of business leases or right of ways that the band wants to enter into. I think the process will hopefully be a little bit more smooth now that we sort of have a more recent template with the current staff completed and done and hopefully approved soon. So the process here is obviously it gets coordinated internally, approved by the council, executed, and then once all the parties have executed it, it'll be sent off to BIA for their formal recording and approval. So that's kind of the high level background. And like Lance said, Barbara from our office worked with Lance. She does a lot of leasing and right of way work. Lance was super helpful in kind of gathering info and keeping it moving. And glad that it's near the finish line.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Oh, I would also like to add that as part of this resolution, we are also seeking approval of a memorandum of tower lease agreement sometimes. So it'll be looking as referred to as a MOL, future conversations. This is not a requirement of the BIA, but it is it's a Verizon product, and it just certifies that the council has voted on it, and I think it allows them to operate,
Sounds
do
good.
business. So, yeah, I'll open the floor to any questions.
The only thing I saw on the resolution, it needs to be changed over to Carlos Hernandez as the chairman. It has me listed as Shane Drift, the vice chairman. So that needs to be changed.
The copy that I see, unless I'm seeing something else, I did see some with my name, so maybe we'll just make sure it's updated.
Yeah, that could be redrafted through, it's a Word file, so we'll get the correct one there.
My other question is for Randy Long. Do you have any concerns with this?
No, I have no concerns with this. We've been working with Verizon for approximately 6 years now, trying to get equipment on some of our telecom towers. That'll bring in additional revenue and stuff that will help out the organization.
Thank you.
Just for additional notes, I can provide a little bit input on the income and term limits and stuff. So this lease it's spelled out as a 5-year lease with the option to renew every 5 years. Feel free to jump in if I make an error, Jeff. I believe it's going to renew for 4 terms over a total of 25, but each time it renews, hang on, I'll back up a little bit. The annual rental rate is divided by 12, 18,000 divided by 12. And when the 5-year term expires and they choose to not cancel, they can choose to continue doing business, then it will go up in an increment of 105% or 5% increase.
Nice.
And that will be every 5 years, so up to 25 years. And then I believe there's also some extensions spelled out in the draft that carry this agreement on to 50 years if the parties choose.
Not bad, not bad.
So it could be upwards of a 50-year agreement. So
Council have any other questions? Call for a motion to approve resolution number 1, 2026.
Move to approve.
Second. Approved by Tara, seconded by Robert. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Silent? Motion carried. All right, Lance, you got another resolution?
okay, yeah. Second item of business. So seeking council approval via resolution for the transfer of lease agreement for a between a lessee and Boiswort. I'm sorry. This is an existing agreement and the original lessee passed away. So I believe the family's legal counsel is on board, but if not, I can provide a little bit. So the lessee passed away and they, as part of their estate planning, they passed on the property, the structure. And so the legal counsel, the trust, reached out to me asking if what the process was to transfer from the trust to the lessee, Marlis Carlson's heirs. And so it was a little new, but it wasn't too different from our existing modifications. Jeff worked with me on this one as well as the trust legal counsel. And so in the end, we're transferring ownership from the original lessee to her heirs, who have one representative that will be doing the signatory authority.
Council have a chance to review and come up with any questions about this?
Yeah, so my question is, so is it going from a band member to a band member?
No, we are the existing agreements between a non-member and their heirs are also non-members.
So they'll be paying the non-band member rate then, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just for a quick update, I believe this was the BIA audited back in 2006, 2007. The rate for non-members is, let's see, fair market value is, I believe, $1,750 per linear foot. And a non-member will pay 9% of that. So 100 times 1750, 175,500, I believe. And 9% of that is their annual rate. So if you have more lots, more income, more rent due.
Any other questions from council? Call for a motion to approve resolution number 2026.
Move to approve.
Moved by Robert,
Second.
second by Tara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Silent, motion carried. Okay, thanks, Lance.
All right, we got a third item that was added,
Oh, see, it's gonna see.
during the, I'm sorry, during the consent agenda. So this is an ongoing project. So seeking council approval via resolution for a recreational lease in the Vermilion sector for Carol Burr. Yeah, it's pretty routine business. I'm recommending a recreational lease in the what we call Cedar Grove 2 area. And we have precedent of approving such leases in the past, I believe, 2 years. So if there's any questions.
Cool. Any questions from council?
Jeff, do you have any concerns on this one?
No, I think this is, I don't have this in the meeting packet because it was added, but I believe this is one that I reviewed with you, Lance, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah,
No-
that's
no
already
concerns.
noted in the agenda request form. Date reviewed by tribal attorney, 3/24/25.
Perfect. No concerns on my end.
This would be resolution 3/2026. Or we
14.
would call a resolution.
No, it's 14-2026.
Any other questions from council? No? I call for a motion to approve resolution 14-2026.
Move to approve.
Moved-
Second.
Seconded by Tara, moved by Robert. All in favor? All opposed? All right, silent, motion carried. Thanks, Lance.
All right, thanks, guys.
And next we got Nikki. Irvin.
Yeah, so I just have for you, our regroup renewal request, which is a sole source request, in the amount of 18,634. This is for the renewal of starting 9/1/2025 through 8/31/2026. And this is just our instant notification platform that we use for emergencies and any other notifications that we send out.
Informational. Did this need council action?
Yes, because it's over $10,000. I need guys' approval.
Copy that. Any questions from council?
Kim, Kim, do we have it in the funding to cover this? We do? Okay. No other questions? I move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Shane, seconded by Perry. All in favor? And that's everybody. So, opposed, silent, motion carried. Next on the agenda item, next to present is Teresa Drift. I'm gonna start us out with the HUD COC grant agreement. That was going on first.
Yes. Good morning. Um, and, Congratulations, Carlos, on the new chairman.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah,
McQuidge.
thank you to the council. Sarah and I are, work for the housing stability programs. I'm the manager and she's one of my resource case managers.
Okay.
And so just to give you some background, Carlos, so these grants that we're talking about, or these agreements, are all related to housing stability programs. So this first one is our HUD COC grant. Boys Fort has had this grant for over 10 years. So this is a renewal that we apply for through the St. Louis County. And it currently funds our housing resource case manager at New Moon, which is Muriel Deegan. And it does pay for part of the supervisor's salary. We do have a match of 17,251 that comes from third-party billing. The amount of the grant for this year is 73,412, and it begins on 10/1/25. Jeff has reviewed the contract. Again, this is a renewal, so it's not a new program.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So you said that we get a matching part that's paid by third-party billing
correct.
that we don't have to match. It's billed out.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we don't have to match it. All right. Is there any other questions from council?
Yes, Kim or Dan, I have a question for either one of you. Now, there is a 25% cash match for this grant. Where is this coming from?
This is the COC grant, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so in the HUD rules for the COC cash match, it is, we're using Teresa's salary as the cash match, right? Is that what we did?
I'm not sure at this point.
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, we have it listed on the match letter as third-party billing.
Okay, well, that's where so.
Yeah.
It's, her salary is being charged to third-party billing, which is allowed to be used as a match.
So it's not coming from the tribal government, it's coming from HHS.
Yeah, because they're already paying part of her salary out of using third-party revenues. We can use that, count that as a match for a grant.
Okay. Now, my second question is that I didn't see anything about indirect cost.
So we had, this grant was originally through St. Louis County and we paid some admin to St. Louis County. And then when it changed over to the tribe a few years ago, that was removed. But I did inquire with our representative at HUD, Catherine Cross, if we can change that to include up to 10% as indirect cost. And she said we can do that after the contract is signed and then we can make an amendment to change that.
Okay, now with that being said, with the difference between what they're gonna be allowed to charge for 10% into a cost and what our amount is, what's the difference? Can the tribe absorb the
Yes.
shortfall?
Yes. About 10%,
Okay,
a little over 10%. And it's a very small contract. Um, I can't remember the amount. It's,
73,000.
yeah, it's not a big contract.
No.
So-
I've said this before in previous meetings that we need to start keeping an eye on this because we only have so much money we could use or whatever for grant matches and all that. And with all these funding cuts that could be coming down, the budget, like I keep saying, the budget's getting tighter and tighter. I just want to bring that up. Thank you. Move to approve.
Second.
Aye.
And it sounded like I had my microphone off. I'm sorry about that. So it passed if you didn't hear that right there. Okay.
Our second item is our data sharing of HUD HMIS data with St. Louis County. So HMIS stands for Homeless Management Information System, and it's a HUD mandated program that is statewide that is used to collect data for anyone that enters any of our programs. Well, most of our programs, not all of them require HMIS, but it is statewide, and it helps track and see how our programs are doing and what's effective and what's not. So that's what's going on there. And then the COC, which Tara said is continuum of care, which is where this funding comes through. We apply through St. Louis County. And so to facilitate the reporting that St. Louis County has to do, this is a data sharing agreement with St. Louis County.
Understandable. Just sharing data with another government on programs that we need and sounds good. Is there any questions from council regarding this? I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Were you still going?
You're
Okay,
fine.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's okay.
Yes, so my question is that any concerns from Dan regarding HIPAA in this process? Any concerns from legal wise from Jeff?
No, no concerns.
And so when they requesting data from you, do they do it in a format? Like they submit a form and then send it to you and say, this is what we need, and this is why we need it?
No, the way that this would work is they would access the HMIS system directly, but any data that they pull down out of the system would not have any identifying information. So it's all, yeah, it's all HIPAA compliant. It's it's by number, not by name or anything or address.
Okay.
So,
Move to approve.
Moved by Shane to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Perry. All in favor? And any opposed? Silent, motion carried. And next, we're going to talk about the cost of the neutral transfer program agreement with St. Louis County.
that is correct.
All right.
So this agreement or contract with St. Louis County covers what's called the cost neutral transfer program, which covers emergency hotel rooms for band members in the St. Louis County, in the greater St. Louis County area. So mainly in Duluth. But and we have other funding that covers stays if we were to I needed to put someone at Fortune Bay. So it's a little over $25,000 for the year, and this covers the cost of the hotel room, food for the participants, and any other expenses that may come along with their stay. And this is a ongoing project that we've had with St. Louis County.
Sounds like a benefit for the band.
It's been very helpful.
Awesome. Any questions from council? Call for a motion to approve.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Shane, seconded by Sarah. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Sounds like we got another data sharing agreement between Youth Prize Direct Cash Transfer Program.
Yes. And so we have Sarah Berger Gonzalez online. And she is from Chapin Hall, and she'll help me explain the data sharing agreement and then the letter of support that they're requesting. This is the data sharing agreement between Bois Forte Reservation, Tribal Council, and Chapin Hall for the Ojatun on Watch. Did I get it, Shane? Direct cash transfer pilot program. This is the One Minnesota Cash Plus program. This is the direct cash transfers for young people. I believe we started this a couple years ago. I went into meetings for this, and then we actually gave our first check in March of this year. So we have 30 participants that are receiving a monthly check. It's to be used for housing or anything that they need in order to gain housing. They also had an opportunity to get a lump sum cash payment as well for a purchase or to actually get into a unit because housing costs are going up. Just to kind of give a little bit of background about this program. In addition, we are looking for 30 additional young band members that are experiencing housing instability in Hennepin County and St. Louis County. We have a few, we still need some more. They'll be participating in the survey portion of this, and this is where Sarah's program comes in as part of the research as well. So I'll have Sarah talk about the data sharing first.
Sounds good. Good morning, Council. Thank you so much for having me. Sarah Berger Gonzalez. I'm a policy fellow with Chapin Hall. Chapin Hall is a policy and research center that focuses largely on improving the lives of children, youth, and families across the country. So we work on, we have national experts both on child welfare and youth and young adult homelessness. Council, it's a pleasure to be here with you again. I was there in person with Sarah and folks in January 2024. So apologies, I can't be there in person today. But Chairperson, it's a pleasure to meet you and welcome you. Real quick, just wanted to reiterate some points that Sarah made. So that we would be evaluating this pilot program. This is, back in 2023, the state of Minnesota authorized $5.3 million for this pilot project across the state and inclusive of Bois Forte. And so in February 2025, Chapin Hall secured funding to carry out an evaluation of this pilot. In the state legislation, it states that there needs to be a rigorous evaluation of this pilot program with the forethought of scaling it to other youth and young adults throughout the state. And so it's an opportunity for young adults to share their voice and their experiences about with the program itself, the pilot program itself, but also to better understand the pathways and experiences of young adults experiencing homelessness who are not participating in the program and their experience with other programs and services in the state as they move towards stability. So this is not, Chapin Hall has done a similar evaluation in other places throughout the country. And again, our hope is that the data that we collect is really of service to both Bois Forte, the band itself, HHS, and how you all think about youth and young adult homelessness and your services, but also the wider state of Minnesota and the future. So just a little bit about the data sharing agreement. Chapin Hall will be collecting primary data of youth and young adults across the state, and we'll be doing it for folks both participating in the program and folks who will continue to receive services through the homelessness response system. The data, every young adult who is participating will have to consent to participate in the evaluation, to sharing, completing surveys. We will also be doing interviews and focus groups. We're collaborating with Rainbow Research, which is a Minnesota-based research organization, to do those interviews and focus groups. And And then the third part of the data collection, so there's the regular surveys that young people will complete and receive stipends. They'll receive payment for participation and completion, the interviews and focus groups. And then the third piece is this data sharing agreement. The data sharing agreement is really for a couple of reasons. Number one is it can be exhausting to have to ask for all the data pieces of young people time and time again. And we hear this from young people who have co-designed the surveys with us is like, I've already completed it with all these service members, folks that I'm receiving services from. So to complete again is oftentimes onerous. The second thing is that the data sharing, the data that we're really looking for with both Voice for and the three other organizations that are implementing this model across the state is really about the engagement. Engagement with services, the number of engagement points, the types of services they're receiving, and how the services alongside the cash are supporting their journey to stability. The data sharing agreement, my understanding the text has been reviewed by your legal team. I think the high level here is you all will continue to own the data. This data sharing agreement is all data will be transferred through a confidential, what we call an SFTP, which is a system, a secure file transfer. We will not be doing anything over email. We have very strict high standards for this. And we store it and we will destroy the data once the project is over. So I'll just stop there. I just shared a lot of information with you all, but happy to take questions or dig deeper into the data sharing agreement. And Sarah and Teresa, feel free to add on any questions you might, or any points that I might have missed.
That's really good. I'm glad to be a part of this. It's coming full circle from the time when I had to utilize some homeless programs back when I was young. So I'm glad to be sitting on this side and making sure that our youth are able to get to these kind of services. I think the hardest part is going to be getting the word out so people can know that these services are out there to be utilized. So we need to figure out what we can do on our part to get this word out, that these kind of programs are out there for our youth and little older, so. Are there any other questions from council?
Yes, I got a couple questions. Looking at this and reading it, I'm reading this letter further down. And it talks about the Housing Stability Program provide case management and assistance to band members / descendants, households aged 18 to 24. Now with descendants, that means a band member of Boys Fort but not enrolled, correct? Now the second one is that you're looking to serve people in St. Louis County and Hennepin County. Now, if somebody moves from St. Louis County to another county, do you still assist them?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
And then does that assistance continue on for the duration until they're over 24?
Yes. Yes, until the end of this pilot, but we can continue services. We have other options too for young people 18 to 24. This is just one of the grants that I have for the age group.
Okay, thank you.
Those are good questions to pass on when people find out about the programs, to let them know that it can follow them for a little bit. So that's good to know, Shane. Thank you for bringing that up. I reviewed the letter. It looks good, the data sharing agreement. And Jeff, it was reviewed? I guess, yes, it was all reviewed by the attorney. Call for a motion to approve.
Move.
Moved by Shane,
Second.
seconded by Robert. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Silent. Motion carried.
We just have one question on the letter that's requested for Brainy.
Okay.
Sarah might just want to say really quick why they need the letter.
Yeah, so the letter of support is basically back up. Brainy is an institutional review board. We hold the highest level of ethics for doing any research and evaluation. And every institutional review board asks for a letter of support to engage in a community. And so it's not that we are just engaging without asking you all. So the letter of support indicates that you all are supportive of this evaluation and engaging with us in this work.
And then our question is will the chair sign this, or how should who should do the signing of just this particular letter? Who would you prefer sign it, Sarah? From the council?
If that's the preference, then yes.
Yeah, we'll figure out how we want to make it look nice and all sign it. Let's all sign it. The whole council will sign it to show support.
Okay,
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Looks like next on the agenda, we have Donna Hoffer. Thank you. Okay. Hi, welcome today, Donna. It sounds like you had on the agenda a discussion on the Virginia property.
Yeah, I guess the question would be, what is the Virginia real property?
Sounds good. I think Dan Rabideau is the one that would be answering the questions for this particular question. Is Dan with us? He has more info. If I know more, I'd let you know.
Sure, thank you. By the way, I'm Donna Hoffer and I am a Boy Sport band member. Just for those people online.
Sounds good.
Morning. The Virginia property consists of two properties that were purchased. One prior to my arrival. It was the old Plush Chiropractic building. It was purchased as part of a grant program to expand mental health and SUD, substance use and disorder programs to the Quad Cities area. In the midst of putting together a plan for how we're going to utilize and repurpose that building, it was asked if we could expand potentially medical and dental services into that area as well. We did not have the space to do all of that in the footprint that we had purchased. And subsequently, the neighboring owners approached us and asked if we had an interest in acquiring the other half of the building. The building is all under one roof structure. It was divided many years ago, and two different tenants purchased and occupied both parts of the building. So we were given the opportunity, as they were looking for new space themselves, they basically, instead of outgrowing their space, they were looking to downsize their space, and so gave us the opportunity to acquire the other portion of the building. We were only maybe 10 to 15% of the way through demolition and repurposing of the other building when this happened. Brought it to the council and said we would be able to expand certain services if we were able to acquire that building. We did enter into a purchase agreement, purchase the building. We're able to add into the design the expansion of the services provided for the Quad Cities community to now include dental services and pharmacy services. So that space will be utilized to serve both on the behavioral health side, mental health, SUD, pharmacy, dental, and housing stability people, should our team determine that that need is for the Quad Cities community as well.
So I guess my question then becomes, and I'll share with you the resolution, Chairman Hernandez, because you may not have been here when this resolution was passed, and I do have copies for everybody else.
Okay.
So it's resolution 662019. This is a resolution that was passed in April 3rd of 2019, signed by Kathy Chambers and David Morrison. And I believe Shane was really in pushing for public input on when a business, further pursues business relationships that have a potential material impact on the band resources and the lives of the members. So, and it says here that this would include band members' input. A notice of the proposal would be on the Boys Fort website, publication in the Boys Fort News, public posting on the reservation, all of which must occur at least 30 days prior to the public notice, the hearing, and an opportunity for band members to submit written comments on the business proposal following it, the public hearing. And the resolution does, kind of give a decision-making process. So my question is, does this business that he's talking about, to this Virginia property, I believe it impacts us band members' resources and the lives of the members. Does it meet this resolution as a business proposal?
When was the property purchased? Do you know, Dan?
The first property was purchased in 2023.
Do you happen to know if any of these notices were made out?
I do not have the history of the acquisition of the property. My understanding is this is an expansion of current services we have. It's not a different business development. We're not establishing a new provider ID. We're not establishing anything different than providing outreach services into the community. I don't view this as a business venture and utilization of bands investment dollars. Our funding mechanism is through grants, third-party revenue, and with the ability to utilize what's called the 105L monies, we will not only be able to expand the services to other band members that are off reservation and in the Quad Cities area, but we will be able to do so with the funding provided by other services or other resources that are not band resources. We've been able to take advantage of, and this was part of the education that I provided back to the band on the opportunity is those dollars exist. They exist in statute. They're very hard to take away. Not to say that they can't be taken away. Very difficult to take away, and we've been very successful in covering our buildings that provide HHS services that are defined in our compact. These are already services that are defined in the compact that we deliver on and off reservation. And again, I don't believe this is any type of new business venture, such as starting a cannabis business or a new casino or this. This is just simply the expansion of services, providing additional access to band members that have difficulty in getting transportation, whether it's to Vermilion or Net Lake.
If we could have either Nikki and Regina or even Jeff look back at the meeting minutes to see how this was passed, and like Dan was saying, if it was a passage like an expansion, then in my opinion, it wouldn't trigger this. But if it's a new business, it would trigger this. And that's so that if we could look back at the meeting minutes as how this was passed, and then adjust it from there. Thank you.
If I may.
Yeah.
So I do believe at May 7th meeting, 2025, it said phase 2. I'm not sure what phase 1 consists of. I did ask for a request for data on this project. However, I haven't received a date when I can come review that. But they approved, Dan presented a acceptance on bids, recommendation, and authorization for the renovation of this building. And I believe he stated that it was going to be a loan pending 105L lease money, correct?
Part of the agreement was to utilize bank resources under having the ability to use collateral instead of paying cash, use collateral, and the principal and interest will be paid by 105L. Therefore, the band would not be paying the principal and interest payments. We would be receiving other sources of funds to do that for us.
But
In
my question was, it is a loan.
that is a loan, yes.
Okay. And it's contingent on 105L lease money. However, I mean, we can look back at the minutes or watch the meeting, but it was contingent on the 105L lease money coming in, which my understanding it hasn't been approved yet. In the meantime, he did say that there was third-party revenue available, the resources of our third-party revenue. So my question also with the council with this project then, have we established or have you established guidelines on how you expand that third-party revenue? Prior presentation, people were using salaries for it. When I believe there's needs on the reservation for our elderly, you know, in healthcare, housing. I know we can't pay housing out of that, but there's certain things third-party revenue can assist, you know, with meeting our people's needs on the reservation. And I guess our voice really wasn't heard in this. I do believe it is a new business. I do believe they have a new name. It's not going to be Boys Fort Health and Human Services. And I do believe as a pharmacist, you do have to apply for a license. So it's not working under the same license. And then my question would be, do you also, you know, can we get the encounter rate off the reservation? How is this new business going to affect the current 2 existing clinics? One on Net Lake and one in Vermilion. Has that feasibility study been done? Is there a business plan? And I think, you know, adding resources such as behavioral health is key, such as dental. All of this is very key. However, I know on the Boys Fort Reservation website, there has been dental posted number, dentist posting number of times.
Yeah.
And so how is that going to affect us if we don't have a dentist here on our, you know, the reservation, then we're going to, you know, provide it off? Does that mean that those of us that utilize this clinic now have to go to Virginia? Just some logistics that I think we could answer in a community setting to discuss this. We were allowed a vote to open up a gas station in Evelyn, which we have 2 existing gas stations, our convenience store, if that's what you want to call it.
Mhm.
And I do believe this is tie in our, what do you want to say, business with other entities, based on what I could just research and watch for the meetings we've have possibly went after IRRB money. So that's an agreement. That's new. And if we are using these third-party health revenues, I guess we'd like to know how much. The project that was presented, I guess, didn't give a dollar amount. And then the lease, the 105 at least was presented to you in May 1st of 2024. We purchased what I found, the next property for Virginia is November 11, 2024. Did they go back and revise that 105 at least? I don't know these questions, but I guess I really think that resolution, voice for band members should have had a vote. That's my,
I'm glad you brought that to my attention because, you know, I was thinking about trying to expand the cannabis business here and then, you know, kind of like, so I'm gonna have to bring it to a vote because this is kind of close, you know, and I'd like to assure everybody that this kind of stuff is not gonna happen. We're gonna make sure we follow the policies and procedures. It does seem like it was kind of skirted. What we can do about it, we're gonna have to figure it out. We're gonna continue this discussion. This meeting is dictated, so those questions that were asked by Donna, I'm gonna have prepared and gonna see if we can work on finding out the answers. And then it's gonna be released to the community. No, we don't have the time right here to sit down and hash it all out. It'd be interesting, but you know, I'd like to give Dan time to prepare some of the questions that were asked and stuff. And I think we all want to know what's going on here, and we need to be able to talk about things like this. I really appreciate you bringing this up, Donna. I'm not cutting you off. I'm just stating thank you for bringing this up, and we're going to work on things like this.
thank you. Thank you for your time.
I have some questions for Dan, regarding this, you know. I talked about it before and how the Medicare, Medicaid, cuts that are coming down and how is that gonna affect our property in Virginia? Is that gonna affect our property in Virginia once we open? Can you, I know you explained it to me before, but if you could explain it to the audience, that'd be great.
The potential cuts that are coming to the Medicare, Medicaid program are particularly around eligibility for insurance coverage. I can't predict or determine who will utilize our services that may or may not have those coverages. What I can predict is that band members are in a unique position compared to the rest of the state Medicaid recipients in that we have different coverage options to maintain coverage for Native Americans, and our PRC team will continue to make sure that we provide the various coverage options to those individuals. As far as non-band members or non-natives that utilize our services, at this time, the plan wasn't to expand and open to the public services in Virginia to make sure that we're serving the band members first, and continuing to do it in that way. If we were to find that we have additional capacity, then we would open it up beyond the band to serve other members of those communities. That's to be determined, which at that time, part of that determination will be based on what are the coverage options that people might be coming in. We're not going to be able to serve the general public in a manner in which we're expecting them to pay out of pocket and trying to collect monies from people that may not have those dollars. That would be very challenging to do and probably not the most fiscally responsible strategy to deploy. As far as the encounter rate question, we do have the opportunity, it's right around the corner, the public comment period from the bans around the state ends here in the middle of July, related to identifying or opting in to become a federally qualified health center. By doing so, it protects the band in terms of our reimbursement for services provided off reservation. And again, all of those were part of the factors that helped us determine whether or not it was feasible to provide services off reservation. We did do some data analysis, so just quickly commenting on feasibility. We have over 250 members in the Quad Cities area, and through the service offerings that we provide to these individuals, whether it's housing or other services, transportation is the primary challenge that they have in getting to and from the reservations, which is why prior to my arrival, the decision was made to expand services into those areas so that we are opening access to members that aren't in these communities. If I could wave a magic wand, ideally, we'd operate one entity in one location because yes, it is moving resources out into multiple areas. And one of the resources beyond the financial that is of a concern is people. And trying to staff multiple locations, that's a challenge. And it potentially could be a challenge as we go forward. To the comment on the dental, yes, we are looking for a dentist. We have been looking for a dentist. Again, at the time that we made some of these decisions, we had 2 dentists. And so for us to stop midstream would have been difficult, knowing and thinking that we'd be able to recruit a dentist for that area. So the intentions are not to open a facility somewhere else and now force band members on or off the reservation to travel somewhere else. That would be going against the whole principle of why we established another location. And so all of those were part of the factors in a lot of the discussion that did take place with the council. And I am happy to entertain, additional questions, but I appreciate your thoughtfulness, Chairman, in that, give us the appropriate amount of time to be able to respond so that individuals and the community as a whole can get the information.
Yep.
One last thing is I remember during our many conversations and meetings about this facility is that we have band members on Iron Range that couldn't get to either Net Lake or Vermilion. And that if you opened up in Virginia, it wouldn't be so hard or difficult. People coming from Duluth to get their medications could stop in Virginia. I remember that specifically from the meetings that we had. I just want to point that out. Thank you.
Sounds good. It's all about perception. And right now it kind of looks like we just opened up a new business in Virginia without asking anybody. So we're going to make sure that we get comments from the community because it's all about perception. Doesn't matter what we think or what we say, what it looks like is what matters. So from this point forward, we're going to make sure we get out any notices or expansions like this. We're going to make sure we still get community comments because it's all about perception.
Real quick, I'd like to add, that question did come up. And Dan's explanation about expansion of services, that's why it wasn't put out there. But that, the resolution did come up several times in conversation. So it was addressed within council and, tribal council. So it was assured that it wasn't a new business to the tribal council. And it was just an expansion of existing services and then to better serve the Quad City band members. So, and that's what the intention is for this program.
Sounds good. We'll get together a report on this discussion and once everything is in order, we'll release it to the community. I'm gonna ask for 2 weeks on the questions that I get out to Dan and then it'll add another week onto the report. Let's say in a month, I'll have that report if it's not really that urgent. So in a month here, I'll have that report for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Dan.
I had a question from a band member. This is very interesting conversation, a lot of it discussion I have not been aware of, how the decisions came to be made to do the expansion. Yeah. The only question I had is I thought I heard Dan reference a Quad City committee. Did I hear that correctly? No? Okay. I was wrong. Thank you.
Okay. If there's any, I'll make sure to reference any committees or anything in there. Does anybody else have any questions or that are concerns regarding that conversation?
I do.
Move on.
I have one. Sorry about that. So I do know that
of our band membership, I know 795 are under 18. Roughly between 800 and 900 live on Vermilion and Net Lake side of our reserves. So if we could get that information roughly, I know it would take probably like a month, like you said, just to project how many band members do live in Virginia and the surrounding areas like Mount Iron, Eveleth. I personally think there's a lot, but if we get that information, I would really just to see stats wise. What
Yeah, Dan did mention 250 in the Quad City area, so I think around there is 250. I'm not sure, or was that we'll get the report. We'll get the numbers soon. Sounds good. I think are we good to move on with the discussion here? Does anybody else want to add anything? All right, that's a good discussion. Thank you much. We're going to move on to Pam Parson and with a compliance update.
Morning, Tribal Council. Welcome, Carlos. Congratulations. Thank you for providing service to us as a chairman.
McWitch.
I'll give you a little bit of a background. We started our compliance program in June of 2019. I am the compliance official for our compliance program for the Health and Human Services. We had a consultant come in who gave me a whole lot of direction on how to build the compliance program. He actually did a training for the RTC staff. So I will get some information to you, Carlos, regarding that board training. But one of the things the Office of Inspector General wants is our health board. And our health board currently is our reservation tribal government, and they are considered to be under our covered entity. But the OIG has different areas they want, they look for compliance. And one of them is regularly meeting with myself as the compliance official. Another thing is routinely asking other organizational leaders about compliance, and then obtaining information from multiple sources, and then regularly reviewing our organizational risk data and information. Another thing that they require is regularly meeting with the compliance official, first of all, in a public meeting. So we've chosen the RTG meetings because this is a public meeting. And then also that I meet with counsel in private executive session. And that's just in case there's questions that I may have, concerns that I may have, that I can bring directly to the council. Kara typically asks the questions, and I don't know if we want to keep doing it that way. But I just wanted to kind of give Carlos a little bit of a background on why I'm here every month and what I do.
No, sounds good. Everybody, just so that everybody knows, there's 8 questions that I have to ask her. I'm not grilling her. I'm not deciding to jump on her and figure out what she's doing today. There's 8 questions that I need to ask in order to remain compliant. So what is your greatest concern, Pam?
All right. So right now, my greatest concern, of course, is the cybersecurity. There's a lot of risks out there, not only for healthcare, but for the whole tribal government. So working with Randy and Eddie in our IT department on ensuring we have adequate staff training, because that's probably our weakest point. So really ensuring our staff are trained on cybersecurity awareness. Eddie puts out know before trainings, and he assigns them through different periods of time. I know I did one yesterday. So very, very helpful, these little sporadic trainings. So real happy to be working with our IT department, as well as our emergency preparedness director. She just recently started the emergency preparedness and cybersecurity planning. And she's invited me to be included in that. So I'm very thankful for that. But that's my greatest concern, is really our weakest area, our people, weakest link.
Okay. Sounds good. Cybersecurity training. What are your top 3 issues that you're working on right now?
So right now we are working on a HIPAA training. So in talking with Dan, who is my boss, we typically use MedTrainer, which is a learning management system, but that's a place where we just assign different trainings to staff. They go on, they maybe watch a video, watch a PowerPoint, they do a test. But I think we all felt like, a lot of people were just going through the motions of that and they weren't really getting a whole lot out of the training. So Dan challenged me this year and said, rather than doing all this training on their own, let's try to do some in-person HIPAA training. So we've completed 2 sessions, and they're 4-hour sessions 4 times a year, 2 in each location. So we completed 2 sessions, 1 session in Net Lake and 1 session in Vermilion. The feedback I got was really, really good because Dan really challenged me to make it more interactive. And so we did a lot of games. We did the standards lineup game. We did HIPAA Jeopardy. We did a ball toss of HIPAA knowledge. But it really got our staff working. And the feedback I got from our staff is that they really enjoyed that more hands-on work. I noticed if I put a little competitiveness in there, they seem to do a lot better because we have competitive staff who want to win the Jeopardy game. So it was really a great thing. And I'm going to invite the tribal council to the next one that's going to happen in Net Lake. And I believe that was August 19th. I will get that sent out to you. It starts right at 8, ends right at noon. I give a light breakfast for that. But that really is going well, and I'm really happy that Dan challenged me to kind of look outside the box and do things a little bit differently and not be afraid to make them changes. I think it's going to benefit our staff in the end. Another issue that I'm working on, and it's not really an issue, it's a requirement. So annually, we need to review policies and procedures. Our compliance committee reviews all of our policies, our procedures, our training materials that surround HIPAA, privacy, and security. And so right now, what I'm doing is I'm working on getting them packets of policies together for our compliance committee members to review them. Then I will be bringing them to the health board for the final review and approval of any changes. The next thing I'm working on is the security risk assessment for 2025. And right now I'm just prepping for that risk assessment. I work with Randy Long, who is our security official for Health and Human Services. So working with Randy to make sure that we get the security risk assessment completed. We're 6 months into the year, so I try to get that within the next 2 months completed. And then I can go ahead and work on a work plan for next year for that.
All right, so
top three.
Those were the top 3 risks, or top 3 issues you were working with. And next we're going to talk about what are the top 3 risks you are monitoring.
So the top 3 risks again is looking at any changes that are happening to the HIPAA right now, and then ensuring that our policies match the changes that are happening. If there's changes to our notice of privacy practices, to make sure I'm well aware of that. So really just always monitoring any changes that are happening regarding legislation, regulations, and the law. Another risk I'm monitoring is we're in the process of looking at completing a billing and coding audit, a revenue audit to ensure compliance. We met yesterday as a group and we decided on, we of course chose the lowest bidder, and we will be having somebody come in and do coding and billing audits for us. This is another requirement that we need to do. So it's kind of, business as usual with that. And then again, the employee education on the phishing schemes and the ransomware. So we don't have employees clicking on links they shouldn't be clicking on. Just making sure that we're very secure.
Awesome. Do you have the resources you need to fulfill your responsibilities?
Yes, I believe I do. Right now, I'm looking at a couple different educational opportunities to help me in my role here, and going more into the revenue side and conducting different investigations, that type of thing, and auditing as well.
Perfect. Do you have access to the people, information, and data that you need?
Yes, I believe I do.
And do you have sufficient authority to do your job?
Yes, I do.
Do people listen to you and are your concerns taken seriously?
Yes, I'm hoping they do.
Okay. And are you included in meeting to discuss new strategies, projects, and initiatives to ensure they are pursued compliantly?
Yes.
Awesome. Those are the questions I had for you, Pam.
All right, well, thank you, Tribal Council. If there's no other questions, I'll get back to work. And if you want, I can come to executive session. I have nothing to bring to you, but if you have questions of me, that's always a good time to do that.
Much appreciated. Any other questions from council?
I'd just like to say, thank you, Pam, for, everything that you've done to get our clinics and, to become compliant, and the program that you worked so hard to develop. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane, for all the support that the council is given me in doing this. And in the end, it's going to benefit all of us because we do need to be compliant. We do need to follow standards. So I'm really happy, and I think we're doing well. And
Thank you, Pam.
thank
All right.
you.
Before we move on, I wanted to take this moment and acknowledge Shane for the time he stepped up as acting chair, and the duties that he fulfilled. Wanted to show my appreciation and the band's appreciation, Shane McGwitch. Next up, we have Wanda Carr. She's coming up to talk about the approval for the Minnesota North to utilize space for ITV services at the tribal government on both sides, Nut Lake and Vermilion, to hold addiction studies classes.
Good morning, Council.
Morning.
So myself and Mary Kay Riandu from Minnesota North Colleges, and I believe Heidi Hansen was going to join us online. I know she was having some difficulty. Okay. So Tribal Council, we are here today to request approval for Minnesota North Colleges to utilize space at the Bois Forte Tribal Government's Bear Room and an undetermined location for the Vermilion area. Currently, Mary Kay has been reaching out to Fortune Bay to see if we could utilize and rent some space there. Minnesota North has received funding to provide tuition paid studies for addiction studies courses. The grant that Minnesota North has received will provide equipment for IT services that will be installed in our locations. I have spoke with Randy and we did decide that the Bear Room here would be appropriate. Because of the limited space in Vermilion, which is the reason Mary Kay has reached out to Fortune Bay. If Fortune Bay is not willing to rent space to us, then we're going to go back to brainstorming where the Vermilion location would have those services provided. The grant, as I said, will provide ITV equipment. That ITV equipment will be installed in our locations. The classes will continue for a 3-year period. Once that those studies are completed, the IT equipment would then be property of Bois Forte. Minnesota North would not be taking that equipment out and taking it back. It would then be ours. Part of the grant is also to provide tuition, full paid tuition to our band members and stipends for participants. So while participating in the studies, they would receive a stipend. Once completion of the class and the students become certified or licensed, it would be the hope that the individual would then apply within our chemical dependency program here at Bois Forte. These classes are going to begin in August of 2025. They have included, or we have included in your packet, the program guides, which Jeff did review and found no issues with
June 23rd of 2025. And if you have any questions, we have Mary Kay here who can really give you, some more details. I will let you know that this is an idea that Mary Kay and John Goodall, who was previously in our SEDS department, they had these discussions, brought me in. Mary Kay had applied for the funding. The funding was approved for Fond du Lac, White Earth, Grand Portage, and Bois Forte. And we just recently learned, I think it was in March, that the funding was approved. And so, yeah, February. So we're kind of like on a fast track to get it going and ready by August 2025.
Nice.
So if you have any questions.
Yeah, the only question I have is, would we be able to utilize the ITV for different courses, or would it be dedicated to the alcohol abuse?
No, it's for everything.
So it could be
So
any program.
it can be for anything except for I asked that we have the Tuesday, Thursday access
Right,
that we
it's,
need, right?
yeah, that's what we're getting it
So-
for. That'll be a
But,
priority.
but other
then-
than that, yes,
Awesome.
have at her.
There we go. That's what I wanted to hear. That's good to hear.
Have at her. And there's other things about this too. I mean, so by the way, and I know this question is going to come up because I've been listening to you all morning. We're not going to lose our funding because it's a DHS Minnesota Opioid Response Advisory Council grant. So are we gonna lose it? No. Actually, it comes from legislation from Minnesota to provide that funding. So that grant's not going away. This is my third grant with DHS, so it's not my first rodeo. I have been doing and actually it's not even ITV anymore, it's Zoom Room. So it's actually more sophisticated technology. I have 3 Zoom rooms down at Misabi. ITV is old news, right? I've been teaching by webcam since 2010, so I've been doing it a long time. One of the purposes, from my view, when I was writing the grant, was so that if somebody didn't have internet, they could access the Zoom room here and at the other location. And so that they couldn't, so if they really wanted to take classes, they'd be able to,
Awesome.
and
Yeah.
so I am actually installing Zoom rooms at 5 locations and DHS is paying for the bill. Because, and this is another way that I looked at it, was it doesn't matter if anybody doesn't ever use that room. From my view, for my classes, let's say they have internet at home and they just want to do it from home. But I wanted to make the space available so that if somebody wanted to take classes, that they could. So it really was just a win-win as far as, and yes, the equipment's staying. We're not taking it. We are insuring it. Minnesota North is going to be insuring it. It will be ours technically, but unless you want it removed, we're not going to remove it. Minnesota NEAT, I don't know if you have any networking education, and assistive technology is actually helping install it for free.
Awesome.
And we've been working with Randy. So the equipment's here as far as I was told. And it is in Tower 2, but it's at the treatment center. And another interesting factor, going back to that property, you said they were doing expansion for SUD. You need counselors. And that's what it'll provide. Basically it'll provide the counselors. And I'm working with Heidi Hansen. So we're recruiting from that and from the treatment center standpoint. And we're just trying to increase counselors on reservations. Really, I mean, come on, we got a problem. We have a problem throughout the whole United States.
Yeah, we do. I have a couple of friends who completed the program and I'm glad, and they're progressing and succeeding. So I'm glad that we're going to be able to make this more accessible to our band members.
We're just gonna try to do whatever we can, right? I
Yes.
still got that little glitch with the room on the Vermilion side, but I'm hopeful that we're gonna work it out. There's nothing that I've never been able to work out, right? And there's So, you know, just like every other grant, you have to stay within a budget. Well, I didn't have to put computers in every room for the Zoom room, and I had originally budgeted for that. So I've got about $7,000 that I can try to plead and beg with to give me a room at Fortune Bay, a conference room at Fortune Bay. And by the way, that equipment would stay there too. So if they wanted to use it for conferences or whatever they want to use it for, that's available as well, right? So yes, and classes, other classes, I've been trying to get on Minnesota North to, hey,
Here we
you
go.
can use this Zoom room,
Awesome.
you know, so
Yeah.
so that's kind of where we're at. And we already started recruiting. I think that Heidi has 2 or 3 people that she plans on, that she plans on utilizing on, and I don't know if it's on this end or the other end where the students live, but that's where we're at. Yes, DHS, if anybody knows, DHS is really difficult as far as they give you a grant in October, but they don't give you the funding until March.
Oh, okay.
If you know anything about DHS, that's kind of how it works, right? So they give us the funding. So I applied for the grant last year. That's when we started working together. So we got the grant approval like the end of October, and we didn't get a signed grant, and I can't do anything without a signed grant.
Right.
We didn't get the signed grant until like mid-February. So that now we're trying to get everything together as best as we can, right?
Perfect.
So
Sounds
if
good.
you have any other questions, I'm full of information.
I just want to say, as a band member who has struggled with addiction, today I have 81 days sobriety from alcohol. I just want to say that I really commend both of you women and ladies for the work you are doing, because our community, our members, you know, addiction, the things that I've learned when I completed my treatment program, that, you know, it's not just a brain, it's not just in the mind, it's from generations. Like how much your family was drinking 2, 3 generations ago, that shows up 2 or 3 generations later.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's beautiful work, and I actually probably might attend some of those classes. So thank you.
Come on in and take some. I'd be happy to have it. It is, we're suffering from a real affliction in our country. And on the reservation for sure. And there's lack of counselors. So we're doing the best we can. You know, I'm an old lady and I'm just trying to do the best I can before I retire and do a lot of good stuff for our communities, all communities. We have a
You had a
bill,
question,
so-
Nikki?
Yep, there's just a question online. Has anyone spoke with Ashley at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, she was in on it in the beginning. She just kind of forgot. She has been kind of pretty busy. So yes, we've spoken with Ashley. I just talked to her yesterday. So we've gotten all that squared out. It's all squared away. So that's not a problem. She actually reviewed our curriculum with UMCAD. This isn't just for certification. This is also so they can continue, so they can get certification in the first semester, but they can continue and go on and get a Minnesota LADC or a Minnesota permit. So it's not just for certification. It's actually for, they can continue on and get full tuition and stipend for both UMCAD and for the Board of Behavioral Health and Therapy for Minnesota. So it's not just one part, it's actually 2.
For those in the audience and possibly online who may not have understood the comment, Nikki was asking if anyone had talked to Ashley at UMCAD.
Yeah.
So just so for your information,
Ashley
There-
McKenzie.
I think you had cut it off before Nikki could finish the comment. So I just wanted to make sure that we could get that information out. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
And I also want to share that the funds will be distributed from Minnesota North for the tuition and to the participants for their stipends. Our accounting department will have nothing to do with those funds.
And actually, in getting back to her question, UMCAD we're also paying the fees for the testing for the certification.
Awesome.
We brought up the fact that, that other people will be able to use it for other classes. My question is that what happens if there's a class at, let's say, 5 o'clock? Are we gonna get something in place so that band members should come in and take the class at 5 o'clock, whether it's on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? I approached the council yesterday and told them that I was looking at going back to school and furthering my degree. And so something like this, if I was able to use this, I wouldn't have to travel so far.
So that's actually something that we had discussions with, and Heidi and I actually talked to Dan about it because that is something that, we are going to have to find an individual who's going to be responsible for those after-hour classes. However, as far as our responsibility for after-hour classes, I think it would just specifically be for the addiction studies, any other class after hours. We do have laptops within our 477 department that we can borrow out to students who need them within our service area. So that is one way that we can alleviate some of the online course issues for individuals who are not particularly participating in the addiction studies. But the addiction studies classes are going to be 3 evenings a week. I believe it was 73 or 78 classes per semester. And so we do know that we have to find somebody who's going to take on that responsibility for those 3 evenings a week.
I guess I'd make a move to approve.
I have a few questions here.
There's still some questions.
You answered my question. I was gonna ask about when the classes are day and evening, so that's answered. And our IT support, is that who would be helping with the classes or any kind, who's doing IT support?
That'll come through from Minnesota North. So they are going to get the equipment installed with the assistance of Randy. They have individuals that are prepared to set that up and get that going. The IT support, because it would be after hours, it would then have to come from Minnesota North because we don't have IT staff on after 4:30.
We can actually manage this whole thing from his phone. So the Zoom room actually, so I had him fix things for me at 7 o'clock at night on his phone.
Okay. And then will you be working with individuals, let's say they have partial credits toward
Oh, yes.
your program, so that they could start halfway through or wherever the assessment is for their credits that they have. So will you be working with individuals like that?
Yes, I have to review all those kinds of things and does it fit into our curriculum? So some people might have some classes that don't meet and remember too, I have 2 regulatory bodies that I have to pay attention to when I look at those classes. I have to pay attention to UMCAT and what they require for ADC1 certification, what their educational requirements are. And I also have to do the same for the Board of Behavioral Health and Therapy, because what happens if they move on and want to get permitted or licensed to the state of Minnesota, then I have to follow their guidelines, which means that I actually have 2. So when I look at those classes, I have to pay attention to whether or not it fits in those guidelines is a more appropriate answer for you, because if it doesn't fit, I can't, when they go to apply for a permit or when they go to apply for certification, if it doesn't fit in those educational requirements, then they're not going to take that credit. So I got to be careful about which classes I take and which I don't. But the answer is yes. I do for all my other students for any other grant that I have. So if their class fits into that curriculum, then I can take it. Yes.
Okay, that's all I had. I do want to say and commend you on this program because this is a gap, it's a large gap. So you're trying to fill that gap. So I appreciate that. Also, when you become a successful program and you graduate 100 students, make sure you let us know that so then we can celebrate with you.
All right. Thank you.
and recruit.
Now that we have Shane back, I'd like to make a motion to approve the,
Move.
by Tara,
Second.
second by Perry. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tribal Council.
All right, at this time, I'm gonna take a 10-minute, we're gonna take a 10-minute recess. It's been too long. I'm sorry, you guys. I missed, I'm gonna try to take a break every hour if we hit an hour, so we'll take an hour, take a 10-minute break every hour. So let's take 10 and meet back here in 10. It's 10:10 right now, or 11:10. We'll meet back at 11:20. All right, thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to resume the meeting. It's 11:23 a.m. 7/2/2025. And next we have Simona Benner on the agenda. She's going to discuss Resolution 3-2026. Appointment of Carlos Hernandez, Chairperson as successor trustee of the Tribal Government 401k Plan effective June 27th, 2025. That basically sum it up.
Yes, it did.
All right, so do we have any questions from the council?
Just to point out that, that they're just removing me as the, trustee of the tribal government 401k plan.
Just switching it over to my name? 'Cause
Yeah.
you were.
Yep, just to clarify, so I'm not being kicked off council yet, so.
Nobody has any other questions? Ask for a motion.
Move.
Ask
He
for
just explained it.
a motion for resolution 2-3-2026. Is Shane move? Any second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Thank you, Simona.
Thank you.
Robert. Next on the agenda, we have Kim Greiner, and there's a list of resolutions. So the first one we're going to be going over is 4-2026, changing Embarrass Vermilion Federal Credit Union signatories for Fortune Bay and Resort and Casino account. Is that the same as the last one where we're switching it from Shane's name into my name? Or is it something else?
Yes, that's basically
Exactly.
all of it. So, the first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are for the enterprises.
And Kim,
And then the last one is,
Brad is online if there are questions.
oh, okay. Yeah, and the last one is for the tribal government. The enterprises, why they have so many is because they have different signers for different accounts for their different enterprises. And on the tribal government side, it's always been the chair and the secretary treasurer. So we have a blanket one that we share with our bank. So,
Okay.
so the first one is for the Vermilion Federal Credit Union for Fortune Bay Resort Casino accounts. And on that, and on the resolutions, it lists who are the authorized signers.
Perfect. My question would be, do we have to go through these one by one, or can we blanket the resolutions since they all consider the same? As long as they're reviewed by Jeff. Do we have to go through one by one, or can I say kind of like the consent agenda, and doing them all at the same time?
Myself, I would do them one by one.
Okay, sounds good. I was just asking. All right, so I ask for a motion to approve resolution 4-2006. I'd be changing the, oh, no, that's changing Embarrass Vermilion Federal Credit Union signatories for Fortune Bay Resort and Casino account. Moved by Robert. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Next, we have resolution number 5-2026, changing Park State Bank signatories for Bois Forte Cannabis Corporation account. Moved by Robert,
Second.
second by Shane. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is silent. Motion carried. Next on the agenda is resolution number 6-2026, changing B2 Bank NA signatories for Fortune Bay Resort and Casino accounts. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Shane, seconded. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Perry. All in favor? All opposed? Silent. Motion carried. Next is resolution number 7-2026, changing Northern State Bank of Ashland signatories for Fortune Bay Resort Casino account. Do I have a motion on this resolution?
Move.
Moved by Shane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion silent, or motion carried. Next is resolution number 8, 2026, changing Park State Bank signatories for Fortune Bay Resort and Casino account. There's no questions. I ask for a motion.
Move.
Moved by Shane,
Second.
second by Perry. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is silent. Motion carried. Next is resolution number 9-2026, changing signatories for bank accounts under the name of Boys Fort Band of Chippewa or the Boys Fort Tribal Government. There's no questions. I ask for a motion.
Move.
Moved by Robert. Any second?
Second.
Second by Shane. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Silent. Motion carried. Much appreciated, Kim. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Amanda Gogolai. She's going to talk to us about the Minsure Navigator contract.
Hi. So all I have is just a renewal for the Minsure contract. This needs to be renewed every 2 years. And the tribal chairman has to sign off on it.
Sounds good. It's a renewal and
And Jeff has okayed it here.
good.
No. That's what he said.
Move to approve.
It has been moved by Shane to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Perry. All in favor? Say aye. All opposed? Motion carried?
So this will come by DocuSign to you.
Perfect.
So, all
I'll expect that.
right, thanks.
Will it be coming from you?
No, it'll come from Christina Wessel with Minsure.
Much appreciated.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, next up we have on the agenda is Executive Director Miranda Lilia. A band member financial meeting request.
Good morning, council. There, at a previous meeting, there was a band member request for a financial meeting. It was discussed with council at the weekly update meetings between myself, council, and others who are invited to those meetings whenever there are specific agenda items to be discussed. It was previously decided that this information would be presented at the community meeting next week, which I believe is on July 8th. However, with discussions with council, they wanted it added to this meeting for discussion.
And I thought the plan was to move it towards the end of the month, correct?
Yes, that was the council's wishes, but you wanted it to be here for a discussion. So if you wanted to make that decision today, we could make that decision.
I think one thing to point out too is that the council needs to address the data privacy part of it so that we can start releasing the information that's being requested. And to meet with Jeff and some of our directors and CEOs to go over that information. And then I'd say whenever we can schedule that meeting.
One part of the discussion was council had wanted to wait until the new chair was sworn in and on board to have the discussion. And I believe it was just to determine which date that meeting would be scheduled.
Sounds good. I'm just gonna need to get up to speed on some of the information, so sounds good. Yeah. What date was tentatively scheduled?
thoughts from council at the time were to still have it within the month of July.
Okay.
July 30th would not work.
You can remove my leave for the 30th, and if it makes it work, we'll do it on the 30th.
Rather than maybe hold up time here at the meeting, would you like Nikki, Regina, and I to determine the best date for that towards the end of July?
Sounds good.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you.
I have a question as
I'd
well.
just like to find out too is that, if you guys are gonna have it later in the month, towards the end of the month, is that, remember, I'm most likely gonna be gone. I'll be on, heading out to my, to go get my daughter from, Hawaii.
We'll be sure to schedule it not on the days you'll be gone.
Either way, whatever works for you guys, just for the band members, it's not about me, it's for the band members, so.
I have a question for Jeff. Is he still on? Yeah, he's still on.
Yep, I'm here.
So in that last meeting when we were discussing the FY25 budget, the meeting notes from that meeting aren't ready yet. They were tabled, I believe. So, but I just have a question. Is it possible for me to rescind a possible approval of that budget because I was unaware of certain key information before that we discussed and approved that budget?
So I wasn't I don't think I was at that meeting. Was there a council vote to approve that budget? Is that what the council action was?
Yes, there was.
Okay. The action to change that would likely then happen through an additional motion to basically disapprove that budget as written. I think that would come through a council motion that then would be re-voted on. And then you could express through that motion, Perry, sort of what your position relative to that budget would be. But I think under Robert's rules, it would be through, instead of like rescinding the prior vote, it would be through a new motion, if that makes sense. And I don't know if you want to do that now or not, or I can look to clarify that to get you a confirmed answer too, but I believe that's what it would be, if that makes sense.
I would like to do it now, and thank you for your comments, Jeff, and I appreciate the knowledge. Thank you. And do I have to be the one to put it to a motion too, right?
Yeah, if you wanted to make that motion, you could make a motion on the floor. You want to just state what that motion is. If it would be to disapprove, because it's an approved budget as it stands right now, based on my understanding, if council voted to approve that. So you could vote, your vote would be to like essentially have council retract that approval or disapprove the approved budget to pull it back. And then the council would vote on that motion if there was a second.
Mr. Chairman, Carlos, I would like to make a motion to rescind my approval of the FY25 budget from the meeting in June. It was I don't know, May, end of May. Because I was missing key information and I didn't find out till after we voted on it. You weren't here, you weren't seated yet, and so I would just like to make a motion to rescind that because I just feel, given what I know now, I don't feel comfortable with it.
And we had some questions that needed some clarification. And Sure. If possible, it's regarding the approval of the fiscal year 2025 budget. 2026. Okay.
Okay.
I'm unsure of the question, Perry, that,
I'm just thinking maybe she can provide some key information that Perry didn't know.
Yeah.
Not long and drawn out, you
I
know,
know. I
but
don't know, because I
but I
don't know
just-
what, I don't know what, what was missing. That's my thing. So I don't know what, your perception is versus mine.
One thing that I can recall of was that when we talked about utilizing this money and for this purpose, that the original intent of keeping that money, the setting it aside was for the Trump administration cuts and any cuts that are coming down from the state. This money wasn't used for cuts. This money was used to cover a $5.7 million budget. And one thing that I brought up was the 105L money, if we reclass it, could we get some of that money back? And that wasn't shared at that first meeting at that time. And that was one of my concerns, because when I brought that up to the rest of the council, after we met with that, I said, did you guys catch that? I said, to me, that's a concern. I said, because if they audit that this financial year, we can't go back and get that money back from the 105L money. So that was a concern. And the other question too is that if we didn't have this tribal state aid monies from the state, where did that money come from? And that was a huge concern.
Okay, so first of all, when we met, we went through and there's several pots of money. So the 5.7 million that was passed was part from Fortune Bay and some is from, a part of it is from tribal state aid when we went through it. There's other pots of money that we have too, that we have what we call our tribal ARPA. That is also set aside for future cuts that we haven't allocated out. There was several. It's hard to sit here and explain it all right, without all my documents in front of me, because there was other pots. There's some other ARPA pots that are remaining that didn't have timeframes to be spent. So there's some of those funds like that. We went through this all upstairs. We did talk about reclassing. I believe it was mentioned in the meeting, in the RTC meeting, that if possible, we will reclass some of the 105L funds to do that, but I'm thinking we did. I mentioned it not to the degree that you're saying that if we get to the point of auditing, but we would have to be auditing 2025 by the time we got the money. But it was with the reclass, because you had even emailed or text me, one of the two, and I said, yes, it was with the, if possible, it was an if in there, we would reclass the stuff that was would be eligible for 105.
Now, I think we need to backtrack and find out when this all took place. And like I said, this was supposed to be used for the cuts that was coming down from Trump's administration in the state. This wasn't used for cuts.
When we talked about it upstairs, there's lots of stuff we don't know what's going on between the state and the tribe, but I do not recall a motion at a meeting, an RTC meeting, to allocate the tribal state aid funds to future cuts.
Does anybody else remember differently what was stated, what this money was supposed to be used for?
It's in the terminology, tribal state aid. We were only supposed to use that money if we absolutely have to. And we used it because a miscalculation on our budgeting and our financial audits and budgets. Meal.
Where may I ask where that tribal state aid regulation comes in? Only to use if needed. To my understanding, the tribal state aid money is unrestricted dollars to the tribe to use how they want.
So we can just accept money from these entities and just spend it how we please, not keeping our band members and our employees in mind. I'm not kidding. Kim, where do you see this now in 2 years financially with this? Because we just spent a $5.7 million stash of money. It wasn't a stash. It was there. I'm just concerned. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm just
No,
concerned.
we've also talked about, we started our financial contingency planning. And when we met upstairs working on the budgets, we had some things that we talked about, the new budgets. So we have to have our budgets done in September this year. So we're ready for October. And we had a series of suggestions that the council and people who were up there working on the budgets went through. And we met in a senior management meeting and talked about it. We've shared updating our contingency plan to go through it. And the reality is that we're not, like we talked about, we're not going to be able to sustain where we're at. Because a lot of the ARPA programs are also ending. We had, it's change, there's ARPA's ending, and there's also all these cuts coming.
All these cuts coming, and we already utilized this money for this budget. How much money do we actually have left to address these cuts that are going to be coming? And that's my point. That's what this money was supposed to be used for. It wasn't a mandate from the state. It wasn't a mandate from anybody. It was just basically us talking as a tribal council and employees upstairs.
But it was all explained, and that's what you guys had agreed to and what I had presented at the council meeting.
Just to verify the information, the key information that I was not made aware of until District 1 Representative Shane Drift pointed it out, that was supposed to be for the budget cuts that were coming, the federal budget cuts, because we already knew there were a lot coming. That's what I went to Washington, D.C. for and provided that report. So we knew this was coming, and we chose, this is a wrong course of action. I'm sorry. That's why I want my motion rescinded.
Just a couple of comments here.
Yeah, I had seen that a couple questions were coming in online. Let's go with the first one.
The first one was, can we have this presented at the financial meeting presentation so all band membership is aware? And then can you please have Jeff explain what the tribal state aid transpired from?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. These are some excellent questions, and it seems like these are concerns that a lot of people are going to be brought up with. So I see how we can have this prepared for our financial meeting. There's a lot of questions that we're not going to be able to answer today or right now, but this is a concern that people are going to be wanting to have follow-up on. So quite a few questions are being brought up now. So we're going to have to prepare these and present it during the financial statement or the financial meeting.
I do recall correctly, these meetings were recorded, so we could look back at those meetings. Thank you.
Perfect. And is that good for the first question? Can we move on to the second? Did anybody else have anything to move or add to that first question? It's regarding about getting this presented at the financial meeting. No? All right. How about the second question?
Which was just, can you have Jeff explain what the tribal state aid transpired from?
Perfect. If Jeff was able to catch that, if
Sure.
you could answer that.
Yeah, I can give a brief summary. So tribal state aid was a piece of legislation adopted by the Minnesota legislature. So it's a state-based allocation that the legislature passed 2 sessions ago, I believe, for the first time, that basically just allocates, I think it's around $30 million to tribes throughout the state, who can then opt in on an annual basis to receive an allocation of those funds. So the funding, I believe, how it's structured is it's the same amount regardless of how many opt in. So if you have tribes that don't opt into it, all that money is still distributed annually to the tribes that do opt in. So the numbers could fluctuate year by year depending on that factor. Kim can maybe speak to the timing of it. It was a little bit delayed in terms of how it initially came through, I think, but I think they're sort of set up so it's distributed on an annual basis. It is state aid money that doesn't come with restrictions in terms of, the tribe having to spend it in certain areas. Of course, the council can decide internally how it wants to allocate and spend those dollars and what restrictions it wants to put on it, but it doesn't come with restrictions from the state itself. The only other piece I would say, and I know that the council's talked with Reed about this on many occasions, it survived, if for lack of a better term, this past session in terms of not being cut. It is not distributed on a permanent basis, though. Of course, the hope and the goal will be to maintain that funding in the legislature from year to year, but it's always going to be something that I think tribes are going to have to stay in tune to make sure that the funding could exist, because a new legislature could always cut or remove that funding in the future. So yeah, that's kind of a high level summary. Hope that helps.
So for the fiscal year 26, the state budget started yesterday. So they would be on 26 budget. We get that money in August. And that's our fiscal year 25 budget. I believe is there a formula, something to do with enrollment numbers in there too, Jeff, because we certify our enrollment each year?
Correct. I don't believe it's just a pure share based on tribe that's equal. I think it is based on enrollment as certified by the tribe.
And so like if a tribe drops out and not opts it, the 30 million is still there, but it's distributed by the formula. So the number could go up or down. Right now, I believe all tribes are accessing that fund. And then the other thing that I just wanted to point out, this was because from what I understood, and maybe I have this wrong, was like counties and cities get what's called impact aid from the state, and tribes never received it. But because we're residents of the Minnesota, the legislator was trying to correct that error.
Yeah, I think that was a part of the original legislation. There's all sorts of different state taxes that have under state law different distributions to counties and school boards and local jurisdictions. And of course, it may not come as a surprise to know that historically tribes have been left out of those formulas. And so I think there may have been different reasons for different legislators, but I think that, that was one of them, is to try to fill gaps in bringing tribes into sort of tax revenue at the state level.
Okay. So, so if I understand this correctly, Perry, your concern is that the funds were not used the way they were supposed to be. So at that point, I'd like to, maybe we can look into that, but as far as rescinding the budget, we can't, I don't think, or rescinding that resolution, approving the budget, I don't think we should do that, because that's not what we thought was going to happen, just because, the funds were not used the way they were supposed to be, is basically what you're saying?
I'm just gonna get to it. What's in that packet? There's 33 pages in there. You don't have to read it now, but once you read it and we can just go from there.
Sounds good. So how about let's not resolute to, take down that, or your name off that budget right now, because let's look at this and then see where it goes from there. Because I don't know what the repercussions would be if we took that resolution down. We got the budget in place already. I'd have to check with Jeff and stuff like that. And then we'll put it down in writing, because if you're speaking of stuff that we need to get some answers for, the band would like to know too. No, so we're gonna get down to this and release a report on where these funds are going. So how does that sound? But I don't think we should move to touch that budget right now.
I agree with you, Chairman. We should get more facts first and more before we decide.
Perfect. Yep, yep. We gotta find out both sides. There might be more sides of the story before we make any decisions on that. Is there any other concerns that you'd like to state?
Carlos, there was another question.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Shane had a question, no, or statement before the question.
Just wasn't funding for the police department supposed to come from this fund to fund our tribal officers?
We can write that question down. I'm not sure.
It is, it's
Okay.
in there.
It's in there. Is there any other questions or did this discussion, should we hold this discussion? We're gonna make a report on the concerns that were made. Timeline for the report. When is our financial meeting?
I think there's a meeting that we had, is it the 18th that we were going to walk through everything? Is that the date? It's a Friday, isn't it?
Is that the public one?
No, that's our internal one.
Okay,
Is that the one? There was one for introducing you to everything.
I see. All right.
Oh,
Well,
the training?
Yeah,
I believe that is 18th, yes. So if council would like to, get together and have this discussion on that day during that training, I think that would be a good plan.
that sounds good because then that will give everybody time to get their information in order.
And for the council, for the audience, both here and online, for your information, what I'm talking about with training is for the new chair, we work to implement a training schedule and we're going over various topics, departments, policies, kind of everything for the new chair. And we've invited the rest of the council to participate in those training sessions for, like a refresher. And so what Kim is referring to and what I'm referring to is on the 18th, it's Kim's day for financial training. And so part of that day could be used to discuss, FY25 budget.
Just like to also point out too that we have a Ushkaday meeting regarding, the council is going to be meeting with the Ushkaday people in Boise Bay and looking at Ushkaday is going to be going out on its own financially come August. And we want to make sure everything's in place financially for them to do so to succeed. On the flip side, we're going to be meeting with Fortune Bay as a tribal council because in the years past, it has been, this is what the tribe needs, give us the money. Now what's going to happen is that the council is going to meet with Fortune Bay and says, this is what we need. What can you give us? So, and that was my understanding of that meeting. Thank you.
All right, is there any other concerns that needs to be brought up? I keep mentioning a financial meeting. I thought it was a public financial meeting. Is there something coming up for the public? Oh yeah, we did. We just spoke about it. Disregard. Oh, I was gonna mention, so you said some of that info is in this packet here? Okay,
We can talk after. Thank you.
sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, the only other item I have under me for the agenda is Chris Holm, our Natural Resources Director, is here to provide an update on the wild rice situation. We are hoping that Chris can provide possibly weekly or bi-weekly updates to the tribal council during the summer months here for updates. So Chris Holm, you have the floor.
Morning, council. Morning, Mr. Chairman.
So as a brief update for you on condition of rice, rice is this year developing at a rate and a schedule that we expect. It is, to my estimation, at this point, perhaps a week, maybe 2 weeks behind what I would normally expect, but I expect that to catch up if we get the weather. It usually does. It's not unexpected to see this at this point. We had good germination. We had good floating stage. It's starting to emerge and stand up now. We did have one windstorm early June that took out a little bit of germinating rice, predominantly on the west side. Because that happened early in the season, there's new rice coming. That particular isolated area, because of the timing of it, I don't know that it will reach maturity by ricing time. Everything now really depends on weather. Okay, water levels were good for germination, and so we got a good start, a good jump on it. Rice has a really long growth period, okay, as you know. So as soon as we can get it, as soon as it gets germinating and growing in the spring, the sooner the better. Otherwise, we run out of time at the end of the season. So as I said, I think we're on track right now. Conditions look good. It's a little early at this point because it's just starting to stand. So I don't have a density and acreage report for you at this point. That usually comes in August, just prior to ricing time. So when I come back to you for future reports, there'll be some more detailed information about the extent of the rice beds and the condition.
I know we were kind of worried because you look out there and it looks like kind of sparse.
Yeah.
Is that normal for right now, or is it a little low?
It's, as I said, we're set back a little bit as far as it's standing up, but there's
Okay.
a lot of floating rice out there and it is starting to go.
All right.
So, it does look sparse right now, but there is rice coming.
Perfect. That's good to hear.
If
It's
we
just
do-
not standing up, you're saying?
I'm sorry?
It's just not standing up at the
Well,
moment?
some of it is, it's just starting, yeah.
All right.
There's, depending on how the season goes and the weather, I mean, we've seen in recent years, second germinations happen and even third germinations of seed. So, the opportunity exists for, areas to fill in. Again, it comes down to timing. By the end of the season, when it's time to harvest, before the storms come, the stuff that starts late isn't going to make it. So there's that.
Any other questions from council before I ask one?
Well, I hope that we do get the rice, like I said before, some of our elders are kind of concerned because when you drive around the lake shore, you don't see anything. And that's a huge concern for myself as a band. I was down there last night. You usually see a patch of rice out there by Spirit Island. That's not even there. You usually see a patch of rice down here by Albert's, right off Albert's Landing. You don't see that. Hopefully, everything will work out and we'll start getting some rice.
So
Is there any ceremonies that we've been missing in the community for the rice that could attribute to this? Is there some that we're missing, or I'm just wondering? There's some.
I think they had their spring ceremony. I think they had it in here where they make their offerings and all that. And I know my auntie Karen, she did used to do a ceremony my grandma gave her for the lake, and I do believe she did that this year.
Okay.
So, but I know individual families, may do it too. But I think that we should start doing more as a tribal council to promote these ceremonies. Like I sent that email yesterday and CC'd you guys on that email regarding healing ceremonies for our band members. Thank you.
There will be and always will be a first pick ceremony too.
Just want to add to the younger ones out there that when we speak of these ceremonies, as a kid growing up, making offerings to those money doogie to Bandan Zagigan, spirit keepers of the lake, they're powerful. And something's, I do believe Mr. Home here, because he does really good work with our germination process and our caring for our rice. So I really hope we have a good crop this year. So.
The only other thing I'd like to add is, conditions are changing. Weather conditions are changing. They're becoming more flashy. We are seeing more instances of sort of pop-up damaging storms. That's happening, and it seems like, microclimates of weather and condition are happening. We can go from a great year one year to none the next. And it's, talking with the other rice managers and the ricing community out there, there's pockets. It'll be good in one area, terrible in another area. And it's typically related to these sort of pop-up storms, weather, conditions. So that is becoming more of a frequent thing. So.
I just saw a comment, it says that they're having a lake ceremony on July 23rd. If we could put that on the council's agenda, if we can attend, if we don't have anything scheduled, I think that we should make it as a point as a tribal council to attend.
Really quickly, on that date is MAST.
Call them and have them cancel it. I'm just kidding. No, just kidding.
Give me the number and I'll call.
Sounds good. Does anybody else have any questions for Chris? Dr. Home? From the community? That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Is there any other agenda items? I call for a motion to adjourn at 12:06 PM.
Can I say something?
Oh, yes, I'm
For
sorry.
you, Jer?
Take that back. I take it back. I'm just kidding.
I'd just like to make a couple acknowledgements. That the communities of Vermilion and Net Lake and all band members, urbans, not only Minneapolis and Duluth, are hurting at this moment. A lot of women, including myself. And there's a lot of talk about ceremony and traditional things happening, and might I say turmoil too. So I just want to say to everybody, let's have a good heart. This isn't easy being a tribal council member. It isn't easy for families at this time. And it often isn't easy for single parents, whether they are female or male. I just want to make sure that people are kind, even though turmoil is happening here. But I just want to give a shout out to the employees at Fortune Bay Enterprises and the tribal government here. You have endured so much lately. And I'll just say it's a shame And I will take that on myself, and I apologize for what's been going on or what you have been drug into. I'm remaining very professional. I have a strong mind and a strong heart. And I have your back. I know that many of you already know that in your hearts. So let's keep on trudging on and be kind to each other and help each other. Not